said when it appointed a trustee, the plan was not to wind up operations.
Now, Andrea Chisholm has the latest in this developing saga.
On January 25, the finance minister told the country that SSL attempted to wind up the company. And so the Financial Services Commission FSC as regulator got a court order to stop SSL from winding up or selling its assets. But SSL sees things differently. The company says on January 12 it told the FSC about the appointment of a trustee, Kellyon Campbell of Phoenix Restructuring, Advisory and Insolvency Services Enterprise. Mr. Campbell's appointment took effect 4 days later, on January 16. It was the intention of SSL directors to give their powers and authority to the trustee, putting the company under his control. The trustee and his team would independently review the business to, among other things, determine its financial state of affairs. The information would also help to explore options for restructuring and reorganizing. SSL said the trustee was not appointed to wind up the company. Kellyon Campbell would also ensure all conservatory measures were in place over the assets while ensuring the company obeys FSC directives. Despite this explanation, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark is sticking to the facts as reported by the SSL temporary manager appointed by the FSC.
The temporary manager is in receipt of resolution filed with the company's office for a member's voluntary winding up and stamp received by the company's office on the 16th of January 2023. I don't know what people might say their intent is, but that document speaks for itself. And the temporary manager, FSC, the government of Jamaica, had to act in light of that resolution that was filed with the company's office.
In the meantime, SSL says so far there has been no run on investments and most of its clients have not been affected by the fraud. However, trust in the entity has been deeply damaged.
There's a shocking and bizarre revelation this evening involving the SSL client relationship manager at the center of the multi-billion-dollar fraud and sprint legend Usain Bolt. Andrea Chisholm now joins us live with details. Andrea?
Well, Herman, you will recall that lawyers for Usain Bolt wrote to SSL to get back his money, roughly $12.7 million US. But how did Bolt know about the fraud? It turns out that the former SSL employee confessed to Bolt's management team that she had falsified statements given to them. She also confessed that she stole money from Bolt and other clients. Now, despite that confession, she asked Bolt's team if she could borrow some money from them to help pay back what she stole from others.
So, Andrea, what else is SSL saying? Are they saying that she actually falsified statements for other clients?
Actually, she did. The ex-employee was dismissed in September 22 after it was discovered that she produced a false statements to another client, but there was no fraudulent activity for that. In December, another SSL client presented a statement prepared by her, but when it was compared to the portfolio statement, it was inaccurate, and so SSL began an investigation. Then by January, the employee decided to confess in front of her attorney.
Okay, so in this initial confession, did she actually tell them Bolt's account was defrauded?
Well, according to the release, Herman, initially she did not. She admitted to defrauding 39 clients, but not Bolt. SSL got wind that Bolt was among the victims when a member of his management team reported the conversation with the former employee. The release said it's believed that she was aware of the tremendous spotlight which the Bolt name would bring, and she thought she could really borrow money from his management team to pay back other clients. The company adds that the former SSL employee was well respected in the industry and was trusted completely by her clients. She abused this trust for her own personal enrichment. SSL adds that she confessed to modifying and fabricating requests to sell securities and to steal the proceeds. SSL does not know how the funds stolen from the clients were used.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Andrea Chisholm. And of course, we'll continue to track this developing story. Janella?
Now, the multi-billion-dollar saga at Stocks and Securities Limited (SSL) is turning out to be a mammoth undertaking. This, as the United States Federal Bureau of Investigations (FBI) is now deeply involved in probing the 13-year fraud. According to Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark, the agency has been active in the investigation for over a week now, and there are plans to go beyond what was requested. As Felicia Williams reports, another international partner has also been engaged.
Over a week ago, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark told the country the government has called on the FBI and other international partners as the SSL fraud exploded. Fast forward to the Financial Investigations Division Forum on Wednesday.
By the time I spoke last Monday, the investigative bodies were already in touch and collaborating with the FBI, and that collaboration has continued with meetings that have followed.
Since then, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark said a lot has been happening between the authorities in Jamaica and the FBI.
In the briefing that I have received, based on developments, the FBI is going to be intensifying their involvement even beyond what would have been thought when I first made that statement.
As for the international forensic partners that he said the government would be engaging, we were told that process is also far advanced. According to Dr. Clark, it is important that no stone is left unturned in probing the 13-year fraud.
We are going to allocate the space in our budget to make sure we can procure the best international forensic experts that we can find. And since that time, we have identified a firm, and the procedures involved in contracting are underway. Further updates will be provided. The cyber resources and cyber forensic resources of the government of Jamaica have also been activated.
As for the nature of the fraud itself, Dr. Clark believes managers, directors, and most importantly auditors have several questions to answer. He said the conversation cannot be about the government alone.
So not casting aspersions, but there are questions that have to be answered as to why this wasn't detected by external auditors, by special auditors, by internal auditors over a long period of time. And the reason is not to cast blame on anybody, but to understand the weaknesses in the private sector.
The two-day forum will continue tomorrow at the Jamaica Pegasus as the government looks to widen the use of the Proceeds of Crime Act to help reduce corruption in Jamaica. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
Now, with the investigations into the SSL fraud saga entering a new month, questions have been raised as to why no one has been arrested. Anthony Locke has been speaking with attorney at law, Hugh Wildman.
January 12, 2023, the bombshell revelation. Over 40 clients of Stocks and Securities Limited had been defrauded, including sprint legend Usain Bolt. So far, SSL employee Jean Ann Panton has been the main person of interest in the multi-billion-dollar fraud case. On January 20, the police swooped down on Panton's home, where they recovered several documents and electronic devices. Several of the defrauded victims have also provided statements. 12 days later, no charges have been laid, and the public has been asking why. Attorney at law Hugh Wildman sought to explain a possible reason.
The case may be a complex one, but the complexity of the case has nothing to do with what they have gathered so far. So if you have gathered enough evidence against one individual, that person can be charged while the investigation continues. So the complexity of the case does not preclude the person being charged at early stage if they have enough evidence. And one would expect that if the person made a confession statement or a caution statement, then naturally one would say that the person will have enough against that particular individual.
In a statement making the rounds on social media, Ms. Panton detailed the reasons for stealing the funds from unsuspecting clients. The document detailed the intricate scheme of how she withdrew millions of dollars from their accounts. The statement is said to have been made days before the multi-billion-dollar fraud was made public. It's still unclear